The Third Testament, Section 15, Admonitions, Warnings, Teachings. Chapter 62, Words for those present in Mexico. 1. Disciples, go within, hear and feel me as before. Remember how you confessed that this word is your life and the light of your destiny. Do not forget that I tell you today, what you need will be given to you in due time. 2. Pour new oil into your lamps, so that the flame of faith and knowledge may shine again. 3. Do not sleep, watch and pray, for the Master may surprise you when he enters your home as in the past, as in those days of spiritual enthusiasm, when you felt my presence at every step. 4. You will then see how your life will be enlightened anew by that light which ceased to enlighten you without you becoming aware of it, and it will give you back confidence in a future full of abundance and wisdom. 4. 27-29. 5. Many of you call yourselves spiritualists because they believe in my presence during my rallies through the human mind, and because they are often present to hear my word. But I want you to be spiritualists through the exercise of goodness, through the realization of the essence of life, through your love for neighbor, through your service to God by means of a generous, fruitful, and virtuous existence. 269-55. 6. To some I have given a humble origin in the world so that they may take the Master as an example in their lives. To others I have given a rich home so that they may likewise emulate Jesus, who, though a king, left his throne and served the poor, the sick and the sinners. 7. The merit of him who descends from his social position to serve his neighbors, whoever they may be, is as great as that of him who, by the way of love, rises from his poor and unknown life to the height of the righteous. 101, 55-56. 8. You ask me why I have come to you, because I see that you have forgotten the way in which you are to return to the womb from which you came, and I am showing it to you anew. 9. The way is my law, and by following it the spirit will obtain immortality. I show you the gate, which is as narrow as the way, which I showed you at that time with my teaching. 79, 2-3. 10. You who hear me should prepare the way for those who will receive me spiritually. It has not been chance that brought into my presence those who have received my teaching, any more than it will be chance that develops the spiritual gifts in those who are to feel my presence without the need for a human voice bearer. 80, 4. 11. I have appointed you to spread on earth the good which is true spirituality. 12. Do you feel too incompetent and insignificant? Do you think you are too unclean to be able to load such a task on your spirit? The reason for this is that you do not know my wisdom and my mercy, that you do not observe with unclouded senses the teaching examples I am giving you at every turn through nature. 13. Do you not see how the rays of the sun, illuminating everything, reach even the most polluted puddle, evaporating it, lifting it up into the atmosphere, purifying it and finally turning it into a cloud that passes over the land and makes it fertile? 150, 51-53. 14. Clear your spirit here in my presence of all uncleanness, and set it free. Do not be afraid because you will not reveal a secret to me, I know you better than you know yourselves. Confess to me in your innermost being, I will understand you better than anyone and forgive you your law-breaking and your guilt, for I am the only one who may judge you. 15. But when you have been reconciled with your Father, and you hear in your being the hymn of victory which your spirit is singing, sit at my table in peace, eating and drinking the food of the Spirit contained in the meaning of my word, 39,71. 16. Many of you come crying after cursing the pain. I forgive your faults, considering that they stem from your ignorance. 17. Calm your heart and make your mind receptive so that you may understand what I am telling you now, child disciples of life. When you feel again that your heart is pierced by pain, separate yourselves for a short time from everything that surrounds you and remain alone. There, in the intimacy of your bedroom, speak to your spirit, take your pain and explore it as if you were picking up any object to examine it. 18. Explore your grief in this way, know where it comes from and why it has come. Listen to the voice of your conscience, and verily, I tell you, you will draw from that contemplation a treasure of light and peace for your heart. 19. The light will tell you the way to remove pain, and peace will give you the strength to persevere until the trial is over. 286, 26-28. 20. You must continue your efforts to be resistant both spiritually and physically. For if there are still diseases among you today, it is because you have not been able to rise above the misery and pain of this life for lack of spiritualization and faith. 21. My teaching teaches not only to have faith in the power of God, but that you should have faith in yourselves. 246, 40u, 41. 22. Today you say, God is in us. But you say it without feeling it or understanding it, because your materialization prevents you from feeling my presence in your being. But once spiritualization is part of your life, you will experience the truth of my presence in every human being. My voice will resound in the consciences, the inner judge will be heard and the warmth of the Father will be felt. 265. 57. 23. This teaching enters into your heart, where resolutions for betterment and noble feelings were born. 24. If you have suffered much and wept until you were ready to open the doors of your heart to me, verily I say to you, he who has suffered much has atoned for his transgressions and shall be forgiven. 9. 37-38. 25. You weep, my people, because you feel in your repentant heart the love of the Master. You had been told that no one who would come before the Father with a grievous sin in his spirit would be forgiven, and that he would suffer eternal damnation. 26. But how have you understood my divine righteousness to be so outrageous? Have you not noticed how I clearly showed through Jesus that my tenderest words and my most loving looks were for those who had sinned most? How could I proclaim a teaching in the world and do the opposite in eternity? 27, 41. 27. Comfort yourselves in the bitter and difficult moments of your life with the thought that my wise and perfect law judges all things. 28. I have been in your pain so that you may seek me through it. I have afflicted you with poverty so that you may learn to ask, to be humble and to understand others. 29. I have even withheld from you the daily bread to show you that whoever remains faithful is like the birds who do not worry about tomorrow. They see the dawn rising as a symbol of my presence, and when they awaken, the first thing they do is to send up their trills as a prayer of thanksgiving and as a proof of their trust. 5. 55-57. 30. Sometimes you say to me, Lord, if I had everything, if I lacked nothing, I would cooperate in your spiritual work and do charity. But know that as men you are fickle, and that all the resolutions of today, when you possess nothing, would change if I granted you everything you desire. 31. Only the love of God for his children is unchanging. 32 I know in advance that you would perish if I were to give you abundant gifts, for I know your choices and weaknesses. 9, 55-57. 33 When I told you that you should renounce pleasures, you misinterpreted my word and finally meant that it is more pleasing to me to see you suffering than rejoicing. 34 Since I am your father, how can you think that I would rather see you weeping than smiling? 35 When I told you to renounce pleasures, I meant only those that are corrupting to the spirit or harmful to your body, but I say that you are to obtain beneficial satisfactions for the spirit and for the heart, which are attainable for you. 303,27. 36 I did not even ask you to have faith in me when you came here. It was I who preceded you and gave you proofs by healing your physical sicknesses, giving peace to your spirit or something you thought unattainable. 37 After that, when you believed in me and devoted yourselves faithfully to the fulfillment of my law, I showed everyone his task so that he would not stray from the path and he would only take what was due to him and give mercy and love to his brothers and sisters as I have done to you. 38 Do you think, then, that all who teach are masters? Do you think that all who call themselves servants of God are my emissaries, or that I have given them the task they are doing? Do you think that all those who rule and command in the world have the necessary abilities to accomplish this task? No, people. How few are those who carry out the task that has been entrusted to them in truth. While some seize a position that does not belong to them, those who ought to be in it see themselves humiliated and set back. 76, 36-37. 39 Do not think that I feel hurt when someone does not believe in my presence at this rallies, for my truth is not affected by anything. How many people have doubted that a divine being exists who has created all the wonders of the universe, and yet the sun has not ceased to give them its light because of it. 88, 7. 40 Today you open the doors of your hearts and minds to the light of my teaching. By what works will you glorify me? 41 All of you keep silence, the spirit and also the body keep silence before me. You bow your necks and humble yourselves. But I do not want my children to humble themselves before me. I want them to be worthy to lift up their faces and see mine, for I do not seek servants or slaves, I do not seek creatures who feel themselves outcast. I come to my children whom I love so much that when they hear my Father's voice they lift up their spirit on the path to its upward development. 130, 39-40. 42 Beloved disciples, keep watch over my work with zeal, obeying my instructions, and you will give witness about me with it. Mary, your loving mother, likewise comes down to you and fills you with grace, teaching you perfect love and transforming your heart into a fountain of mercy, so that you may accomplish great works of love among your fellow men and know the truth. She is my co-worker, and besides my word as master and as judge there is her word as mother and as intercessor. Love her, people, and call on her name. Verily I say to you, Mary watches over you and stands by you, not only in these days of trial, but eternally. 60, 24. 43 I have called you the Marian people because you know how to love and acknowledge the Divine Mother and come to her like the child who longs for tenderness, or like the sinner who seeks intercession. 44 Mary's presence in the world is a proof of my love for men. Her purity is a heavenly miracle revealed to you. From me she came down to earth to become woman, so that in her womb the divine seed could germinate, the body of Jesus through which the Word would speak. In the present time she reveals herself anew. 5, 9-10. 45. It is necessary for the human heart to know from the bottom of its heart the precious message that her Spirit brought to the world, and after you know all the truth, you are to blot out from your heart any idolatrous and rapturous worship that you have consecrated to her, offering her your spiritual love in return. 140, 43. 46. Some say to me, Lord, why do you not allow all of us to see you, like our brothers and sisters who testify that they see you? 47. O you weak hearts, you who have to see to believe. What merit do you find when you see Jesus in a vision in human form, even though your spirit can perceive me unlimitedly and perfectly through love, faith and feeling in my divine essence? 48. You do ill if you envy those who have the gift of seeing the spiritual in limited forms or symbols, for what they see is not, strictly speaking, the divine, but a symbol or allegory speaking to them of the spiritual. 49. Be content with your gifts, and fathom the testimonies which you receive, always seeking the meaning, the light, the teaching, the truth. 173, 28-30. 50. Never falsify my teachings. Present my work as a book containing only purity, and when you have finished your way, I will receive you. I will not look at the stains in your spirit and will give you my divine kiss, which will be the greatest reward when you arrive in the promised land. For I have given you in this time a handful of seeds so that you should learn to sow in fertile fields and you should multiply it there. 5, 27. 51. Judge your responsibility, beloved people. Remember that a day you miss is a day by which you delay the coming of this good news to the hearts of your fellow men, that a teaching you lose is one less bread you can offer to the needy. 121, 40. 52. You already know the taste of the fruit of this tree, and I warn you, so that in the future you do not let yourselves be beguiled by false prophets, but you are also to watch for your fellow men by teaching them to recognize the essence of my teaching. 53. It is written that after my departure false prophets will arise, who will tell my people that they are my messengers and come in my name to continue the work I have done among you. 54. Woe to you when you bow down to false prophets and false teachers, or when you add words without spiritual content to my teaching, for then there will be great confusion. That is why I tell you again and again, watch and pray. 112. 46-47. 55. If you do not prepare yourselves, faint voices will come to your ears, confusing you, and later on you will make your brethren confused. 56. I make you watchful that, once these rallies are finished, you do not try to take them up again, because it will not be spirits of light who make themselves known, but confused beings who want to destroy what you have built up before. 57. On the other hand, he who knows how to prepare himself, he who, instead of wanting to excel, seeks to make himself useful, he who, instead of hastening events, waits with patience, will clearly hear my teaching, which will reach his spirit through the gifts that are in him, gifts of inspiration, intuition, and foreshadowing, through prayer, spiritual vision and prophetic dreams. 7:13, 14. 58. Today you look at these voice bearers who speak to you in rapture, and as great as the unbelief of some is, you think that my rallies are possible through these transmitters. But when men once see my disciples proclaiming divine revelations in their normal state, they will doubt them. 59 In your own church will arise those who doubt when they hear you speak under my inspiration, and you will have to have great armor and spiritual purity to find faith. 316, 52-53. 60 If in your ways you observe men who, by their works or their way of thinking, show spiritual backwardness in the face of my revelations, do not be dismayed, for you must know that never have all men marched in the same rhythm. Trust that I leave for them already now the words that will awaken them when the time comes. 61 Those words that you cannot understand now are precisely those that those people will understand. 104,42, 43. 62 Believes and acts without fanaticism. Rise and place yourselves on a level from which you can instruct all your fellow men without regard to creeds or teaching. 63 Do not hesitate to do good to a needy person just because he has a backward or imperfect worship of God. Rather, let your selfless work conquer his heart. 64 Do not close yourselves off in groups and thus do not restrict your field of activity. Be a light to every spirit and a balm in every tribulation. 60, 27. 65 If your fellow men speak contemptuously of you because you have followed my call, close your ears and keep silent, they are ignorant. But if you should take this matter as an occasion to judge, woe betide yourselves, for you are already enlightened by the light of your conscience and know what you are doing. 141,27. 66 Therefore, my people, do not desire that all men should think and believe as you do. You must never condemn men, you must never pass judgment or impose a punishment on him who does not listen to you, who does not accept your suggestions, your teaching or your advice. You must regard all your fellow men with the same deep respect and with true spiritual charity. Then you will learn that in the practice of his religion, in his teaching, in his way, everyone has reached the place to which his spiritual capacity has given him the right, and to the point where you see men, their own development has led them. 330, 29. 67 Already now I tell you that you are no more than anyone else, that the faith you have nourished, namely to be a people of favored beings, is an error, for the Creator in his perfect love for all his creatures favors no one. 68 I tell you this because tomorrow you are to present to your fellow men the teaching I have brought to you in this time. And I do not want you to appear among your descendants as higher beings, nor should it seem that merits made you worthy to be the only ones who heard my word. 69 You shall be understanding, humble, simple, noble and merciful brothers and sisters. 70 You shall be strong, but not arrogant, lest you humiliate the weak. If you have great knowledge of my teaching, you should never boast of your knowledge so that your fellow men beside you may not feel inferior. 75, 17-19. 71 Even here among my workers, how many are there who, without having understood my teaching, considered themselves to be higher beings, worthy of admiration and homage, when they knew that they were endowed with a gift of the Spirit? For this I ask you whether you can approve that a superior spirit imagines something of his gifts, when humility and charity are the essential qualities he must have. 98, 15. 72 Remember that I once said to you, I did not create you so that you might be like parasites. I do not want you to be content to do no harm to anyone. I want you to find your satisfaction in having done good. Anyone who does not do good, although he could do it, has done more evil than one who, because he was unable to do good works, confined himself to doing evil because it was the only thing he knew how to do. 153, 71. 73. O my beloved children, you who lament like stray sheep, calling with a fearful voice for your shepherd. When you close your eyes to the reality that surrounds you, you finally think that I am the cause of all your misery on earth. Others believe that I am indifferent to their good and bad. 74. How ungrateful you are when you think so of your Father, and how unjust in the judgment of my perfect righteousness. 75. Do you think that I do not hear you when you say that you feed only on bitterness, that the world you inhabit is a world without happiness and that the life you lead has no right to exist? 76. You only feel me when you believe that I chastise you, that I deny you every mercy, forgetting the tenderness and goodness of your Father. You complain about your life instead of blessing his benefits. 77. This is because you close your eyes to the truth and see only sorrow and tears in your surroundings and get into despair because you believe that everything will remain without reward. 78. How different would your life be if, instead of this rebellion, this lack of understanding, your first thought daily were to bless your Father, and your first words were words of thanks for so many good deeds which his love gives you. 79. But you are no longer able to feel these virtues because flesh has disturbed your spirit and you have forgotten my teaching. Therefore I speak to you of these sensations which you have banished from your heart. 11, 4-9. 80. You have sinned, broken the marriage, committed crimes, and now, when you face the truth of my word which shows you your transgressions, you forget your transgressions and believe that your Lord is unjust when he speaks to you of trials and atonement. 17, 33. 81. You have been greatly tested, dearest disciples. Because every trial holds a mystery for you, you do not know whether it is to strengthen you in the struggle, to reveal to you something you do not know, or to expiate some crime. But never shrink from the trials, for they are not sent for that purpose, neither do they exceed your moral or spiritual powers. 47, 26. 82. Why do many of you fear that your fate has been written down by me with trials, pains, punishments or misfortunes? How can you come to the conclusion that he who loves you in a perfect way gives you a path full of thorns? Verily, I tell you, the fatal and fateful way is the one you choose according to your will, thinking that on it you will find joys, freedom, bliss, without realizing that it is the very way you are destined to go, from which you will depart, on which true peace, security, strength and health, well-being and abundance are to be found. 83. This way, which I offer you in my teaching, is the one predetermined for your spirit from its creation so that you may finally find on it what you long for. 283, 10-11. 84. You judge superficially as if you were children, not considering that the trials that scourge you are your work. Therefore, when they unload themselves upon you, you desire that they should depart from you, that fate should be changed so that you may not suffer, so that you may no longer drink the cup of suffering. 85. The reason for this is that you cannot penetrate reality with your spiritual gaze to understand that all that you reap is what you yourself have sown, and that all suffering is self-inflicted. 86. No, you have never been able to penetrate into the truth, and therefore, when pain penetrates your heart, you consider yourselves victims of a divine injustice. But I tell you that in God not the slightest injustice can exist. 87 The love of God is unchanging, and eternal. Therefore, whoever believes that the divine Spirit can be seized by anger, fury, and rage succumbs to a great error. Such weaknesses are conceivable in human beings only when they lack spiritual maturity and the mastery of passions. 88 At times you tell me, Lord, why must we pay for the consequences of works that are not ours, and why must we reap the bitter fruit that others have produced? To this I answer you that you do not understand any of this because you do not know who you were before and what your works were. 290, 9-12. 89 Beloved people, your hearts are filled with satisfaction at the thought that you are my disciples in this third time. But I tell you that you must never allow vanity to blind you. For if you were to succumb to this weakness, you yourselves would no longer listen to your conscience when it reproaches you for your transgressions. He who does not begin to cleanse and ennoble his human life cannot expect to develop spiritually upward, for his steps will be misleading, and his works will have no seed of truth. 90 Remember, then, that in my lessons I sometimes descend from spiritual teaching to counsel, so that you may behave correctly in your human lives. I then speak to man's heart, exhorting it to renew itself, making it understand the harm that vices do to the body and the evil that they do to the spirit. 91 I have told you that the man who lets himself be dominated by vice has forgotten that the spirit must not be defeated, that he has forgotten that true strength is to overcome evil through virtue. 92 That man defeated by the flesh has degraded himself, has violated his self-respect, has sunk from his high rank of a man to a poor being too cowardly to fight. 93 Instead of bringing light, bread, and wine to his home, that man brings shadow, suffering, and death, makes his cross and that of his wife and children heavy, and hinders the spiritual development of all who are around him. 312, 32-35. 94 Understand that every one of you who gives up an evil way, by doing so, causes the power of evil to lose a part of its power, that your life, if it is righteous in its works, words and thoughts, leaves a good seed in its path, that your counsels, if they come from a pious heart, will have the power to perform miracles, and that prayer, if it is born from a compassionate and loving thought, will be a message of light for him for whom you ask. 108, 16. 95 Here with me you cleanse yourselves from every stain. Alas, if only you could keep this purity throughout your life. But this atmosphere of spiritualization and brotherhood which you create in these hours of fellowship and teaching does not prevail in the world. The air you breathe is poisoned by sin. 96 Yet you have felt how, to the extent that you make my teaching your own, you are gradually falling off link by link in the chain that forges you to the world. 56, 26-27. 97 Live always vigilant, because on your way there will be some who say they belong to me, but do not believe them already in the first moment. Believe for the sake of what they show in humility, in wisdom and love. 98 Others will tell you that they are in contact with me while they are the first to be deceived. Therefore, you must always watch over the task you have and the position you take. You must open your eyes and ears, and also forgive much. 12, 55-56. 99 Be active, do not sleep. Or do you want to wait until the persecutions surprise you sleeping? Do you want to fall into idolatry one more time? Do you wait until foreign teachings prevail by force or under fear? 100 Be awake, for from the east false prophets will arise and confuse the nations. Unite yourselves so that your voice may resound throughout the whole globe and you may alarm mankind in time. 61:25. 101 Great afflictions await mankind. Remain vigilant and praying for every pain and catastrophe. Many sufferings will be alleviated, others will not occur because they are held in their course by those who pray. 102 When followers of other denominations and sects see that great multitudes follow this people, those who persecute you will break out of these denominations. But fear not, for if you remain caught, the Holy Spirit will put words of light on your lips that will silence those who slander you. 103 I do not give you the killing sword to defend yourselves, I give you the sword of love. Every flash of his light will be a virtue that emanates from him. 104 How much grace will you find with the Father when you defeat the multitudes of the persecutors of my work by your words and bring them to me converted through your works of love? 105 This is the teaching which I gave you in the second time and which you had already forgotten. 106 The human mind will be troubled when it tries to understand the Trinitarian Marian spiritual teaching. For materialized man is clumsy towards the spiritual. 55, 58-63. 107 How many have left at my table the food which I offered them with so much love, without even touching them? When will they ever again experience a time of grace like the present one, in which they were destined to come to earth to hear my word? 108 They are hard rocks, which need storms and need time to become fragile. Their heritage will be withheld from them as long as they do not know how to guard and appreciate it. But they will possess it again. For I have told you that what the Father gives to his children will never be taken from them, but only kept for them. 48:8. 109 Some of you will be changed and made ready by my teaching, so that they may go in search of those who are lost in the wilderness. For this is how I see human life, as a desert. Some feel alone in the midst of millions of souls and languish with thirst, without anyone to give them a little water. There I will send my new apostles. 110 I want my name to be again pronounced with love by some and heard with emotion by others. I want it to be known to those who do not know it. There are people, old people, women and children, who know nothing of my existence. I want all to get to know me and know that they have in me the most loving Father, that all hear me and love me. 53. 111 My word has come upon your selfishness. That is why I have told you that you are to bring what I hand over to you to the knowledge of your fellow men. But you only want to refresh yourselves in my rallies, without assuming duties toward others. 112 But the Master has not called you to teach you useless teachings. He has told you that you should learn this divine lesson so that later in your life you may use it by applying it to your neighbor. 113 I reveal to you in this moment that your spirit has an ancient debt to everyone who comes to you with a suffering, with a need or with a request. Think with what love I place it on your path of life so that you may fulfill your reparation by making it the object of your active charity. 76:20. 114 Fulfill, so that you may not have to return to the earth in times of pain, to reap the fruit of your faults or that of your selfishness fulfill your mission, then you too will return, but it will be in a time of peace to refresh yourselves in the care of the seed that you have begun to leave behind. Now Moses will not lead you to liberate you, as he did in the first times, it will be your conscience that guides you. 13:17. 115. Here are many of those who in other times were teachers of the law or scientists. Now their minds have awakened to spiritual knowledge, and they are convinced that they will not find the highest truth in limited human knowledge. 116. Here are those who in other times were mighty and rich on earth, and who have now come to know poverty and lowliness. I bless them for their surrender and their desire for perfection. This is a proof of my loving justice, since I let them come to earth again to show them another page of the book of eternal wisdom. 96, 16-17. 117. The world gives you many joys, some of which are granted by me and others created by man. Now you have experienced that you have not been able to obtain them, which has caused rebellion in some and sadness in others. 118. I have to tell you that many in this time are not granted to fall asleep or perish in the delights and satisfactions of the flesh because their task is completely different. 119. In truth I tell you that there is not one spirit in mankind who has not known all the delights and eaten all the fruits. Today your spirit came to earth to enjoy the freedom to love me, not to be the new slave of the world, of gold, lust or idolatry. 84:47. 120. Look at the people, the peoples, the nations, as they give their lives for an ideal. They are consumed at the stake of their struggles, dreaming of the glories of the world, of possessions, of power. They die for the fleeting glory of the earth. 121. But you, who are beginning to inflame in your spirit a divine ideal, which has as its goal the obtaining of a glory that will be eternal, do you not want to give, if not your life, at least a part of it to fulfill your duties as fellow men? 122. Above you an invisible battle rages, which only the prepared can become aware of. All evil that emanates from men in thoughts, in words and in works, all sin of centuries, all men and other worldly spirit beings who are confused, all aberrations, injustices, religious fanaticism and idolatry of men, the foolish, ambitious endeavors and falsehood have united into one force that tears down, takes up and penetrates everything to turn it against me. This is the power that opposes Christ. Great are their armies, strong are their weapons, but they are not strong toward me, but toward men. 123. I will give these armies a battle with the sword of my righteousness, and will be in battle with my armies, of which you shall be a part according to my will. 124. While this battle troubles men who chase after pleasures, you, to whom I have entrusted the gift of feeling what is going on in the hereafter, watch and pray for your brethren, for thus you will watch for yourselves. 125. Christ, the princely warrior, has already drawn his sword. It is necessary that the same should cut off evil like a sickle by the root and create light in the universe with its rays. 126. Woe to the world and to you, when your lips are silent. You are the spiritual seed of Jacob, and to him I promised that through you the nations of the earth would be saved and blessed. I want to unite you as one family so that you may be strong. 84:55-57. 127 I know that great works have been accomplished in the bosom of this people, but it is enough that I know it, even if your names are unknown in the world. 128 I alone know the true merit or the true value of your works, for not even you yourselves can judge them. Sometimes a small work will appear to you very great, and from others you will not even realize that their merit came to me. 106, 49-50. 129 You crowds of men who have heard me, when will you come out of your retreat and your darkness? Are you deliberately delaying your armament out of fear of the, then imminent, conflict? Verily, I tell you, only he is afraid who has not prepared himself spiritually, for he who knows my word and loves his Lord and his neighbor has nothing to fear, and instead of avoiding men, he seeks the meeting with them, to let them share in what he has received. After he has studied and fathomed my teaching, he puts it into practice. 107,41. 130 This message has light for all religions, for all sects and faith communities, and for the different ways of leading people. But what have you done with my words, disciples? Do you want to make the tree blossom in this way? Allow it to blossom, for they will announce that it will later bear fruit. 131 Why do you hide these messages and do not bring the world the surprise of this new epoch with this good news? Why do you not dare to tell the world that the voice of Christ resounds among you? Speak and bear witness to my teaching through your works of love, for if some should shut their ears so as not to hear you, others will open them, and your voice will then be to them as sweet and melodious as the nightingale's song. 114, 46. 132 Mankind awaits my new disciples, but if you, who are my workers, abandon the seed and the implements of the field for fear of the opinion of the world, what shall become of this mankind? Have you not felt the responsibility for your mission? 133 Your conscience never deceives you, and it will always tell you if you have fulfilled your duty. The restlessness you experience is a sign that you have not obeyed my instructions. 133, 10. 134 You sometimes complain that the number of followers of my word is increasing only slowly. But I tell you that you must complain about yourselves, because your task is to multiply and multiply the multitudes that make up this community. But if faith is lacking in your hearts, if your spiritual gifts are not developed, if the light of spiritual knowledge is lacking in your mind, how then will you convince the unbeliever? How will you move him inwardly with your faith and your love, if these virtues are not unfolded in the heart? 135 He who does not understand cannot lead to understanding, he who does not feel will not awaken any feeling. Understand now why your lips have stammered and stammered when you were faced with the necessity of bearing witness to my words. 136 He that loves need not stutter, he that believes is not afraid. He who feels has many opportunities to prove his sincerity and truthfulness. 172, 24-26. 137 Today you want to explain why you are Israel, and have no arguments. You want to explain why you are spiritualists, and you lack words. You try to explain what your spiritual gifts are, and you lack the proof and spiritual development to explain them convincingly. But when your upward development becomes true, the necessary words will come to you as you will explain with your works of love who you are, Who has taught you, and where you are going? 72:27. 138. To you I say, what are you waiting for to transmit the good news? Do you want to prophesy on ruins? I say and reveal everything to you, so that you may have a wise answer at any time to every question that your fellow men ask you. Remember that you will be attacked with grave arguments that fill with fear the one who is not prepared. 139. Memorize my word and do not forget the great miracles which I have granted you, so that every one of you may be a living testimony of my truth. Then he who investigates you and ponders in my word will know that it does not contradict in anything what I have told and prophesied to you in the past times. 140. The battle will be great, so great that some who have been my disciples will be filled with fear and will deny me, claiming that they have never heard me. 141. I will cover those who remain faithful to my commandments and face the fight with a cloak under which they will defend themselves, and they will survive every critical situation unharmed. 142. Whoever sows this seed badly, or whoever defiles the purity of this work, will be subject to judgment, persecution of men and restlessness at every hour. Let everyone recognize the tree which he has grown by the taste of its fruit. 143. I have great miracles in store for the time of the spiritual struggle of my people, miracles and works which will amaze scholars and scientists. Never will I leave you to your own powers. Do not be unsettled when people mock you. Do not forget that in the second time the crowd also mocked your master. 63:42-44. 144. Verily, I tell you, the world is against you, and for this I prepare you so that you may know how to defend the cause of your faith with the weapons of love and mercy. I say to you, you will be victorious even if your victory is not known. 145. Now your sacrifice will not be a blood sacrifice, but you will still experience slander and contempt. But the Master will be there to defend and comfort you, for no disciple will be forsaken. 148:17. 146. People, get no longer accustomed to corruption. Fight it without boasting of purity, nor be indignant at the transgressions of your fellow men. Be tactful, accurate and benevolent in your speech and in your actions, so the world will listen to you and will also pay attention to your teaching words. Is it necessary that I tell you once more that before you pass on this teaching, you must live it? 89:66. 147. It is necessary that my people appear among the nations and set an example of brotherhood, harmony, charity and understanding, as a soldier of peace among those who again abuse divine teachings to quarrel, hurt each other and take life. 131:58. 148. Understand finally that you all love the same God, and do not quarrel because of the difference of the form in which one or the other has realized this love. 149. You must learn to understand that there are beings in which the beliefs, the traditions and the customs have taken such deep roots that it will not be easy for you to pull them out the first moment you teach them. Be patient, and over the years you will achieve it. 141:9. 150. When the year 1950 ends, there will be uncertainty and doubt among many of you. 151. Why do some doubt my revelations, which enjoy a greater intelligence than those who believe in my rallies? Because it is not human knowledge, nor the intellect, which can judge my truth, and when man understands this, he is seized by fear against all that is new, against all that is unknown to him, to unconsciously reject it. 152 But you, the weak, the uneducated, who cannot reach the height of men recognized by their intelligence, are those who believe, and you are able to delve into the mysteries of the spiritual. Why? Because it is the Spirit who reveals to the mind eternal life and its wonders. 153 Human intelligence represents a force with which you will now fight, and through it man has created for himself ideas and conceptions of the spiritual which have not been revealed to him through the Spirit. 154 For this fight you are to be strong, with a strength that likewise springs from the Spirit. Your strength will never rest on your body, nor on the power of money, nor on earthly means. Only your faith in the truth that lives in you will let you triumph in the conflict. 249, 44-46. 155 Fear not when you are called stray, reach out to all. Remember that this work, which is true for you, may appear false to others, because in their eyes it lacks the consecration that religions have received to be recognized. 156 If you believe in me, if you believe that I make myself known in the words of these voices, do not fear the judgment of your fellow men. For my teaching is so eloquent, and my message contains so many truths, that if you know how to use these weapons well, you can hardly be defeated. 157 No one will be able to condemn you for zealously seeking the truth, the perfect. For this you all have a sacred right, and for this you have been given the freedom to seek the light. 297, 51-53. 158 When you begin to fulfill your mission and you reach the nations, the most distant peoples, even the primeval forests, you will meet human beings, and you will make them understand that you are all brothers. You will give them witness to my spiritual teaching. You will then be amazed at the proofs of love I will give you. 159 There, among those who are cut off from civilization, but also very far from human corruption, you will discover great spirit beings who will multiply the ranks of the people of Israel. 160 The sick will receive and recover the healing balm on your way, the afflicted will weep for the last time, but their tears will be tears of joy. 161 In view of the proofs which you are to give, the crowds of people will bless the Lord and his disciples. You will be cheered, as it was on the day when your Master entered Jerusalem. 162 But also among those who are to give you joy there will be men and women full of the gifts of the Spirit which you possess. Among some, their gift of prophecy will amaze you, among others, my healing balm will be inexhaustible, among still others, my word will spring forth like crystal waters. Thus you will see the gifts of the Holy Spirit appearing among your brothers and sisters like an inexhaustible sowing. 311, 38-40. 163 People, a false peace now reigns in the nations, but you shall not proclaim that peace has come. Close your lips. True peace cannot rise on the foundations of fear or material comfort. Peace must come from love, from brotherhood. 164 People are currently building on sand and not on rock, and then, when the waves rise again and beat against those walls, the building will collapse. 171, 71. 165 Since the first days I have spoken to you through my prophets to guide you, but not to compel you to fulfill my law. 166 But the time has passed, and the human spirit has developed, has reached maturity and can now understand its mission as spirit. Humanity, which is so near the abyss, the ruin, needs spiritual help from you. 167 It is the fight, the last fight, the most terrible and dreadful between the darkness and the light. All the spirits of darkness are currently uniting, and all the spirits of light must confront that power. 168 You who have heard me, you who carry the light of the Holy Spirit within you, awaken. No longer waste time with earthly pleasures, with temporal goals. Fight for humanity, struggle for the kingdom of the Father to come into this world. It is the mission that I give to all, from the least to the most educated. 169 The spiritual world is with you, and over all the Father is full of love, full of mercy, the Father who sees with infinite pain the suffering that men inflict on each other. 170 This is the fight of light against darkness, and each of you must fight until victory is won. 358, 20-23